With over 500,000 trees and shrubs already planted and growing, it's easy to forget you are in the city. We don't just say, we do. It's the Stay in City way.
Good afternoon and welcome to Real Talk with me, Anele, on SABC3, where the stage is yours. So, how many times have you procrastinated and not gotten things done because you use the excuse that I just don't have enough time? The saying goes, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's about how you use your time effectively. My guest today knows all about living life to the fullest every hour of his 24. He's built portfolios as a brand strategist for some of the biggest brands across Africa and the world. He is a revered international speaker, appeared on all local and numerous platforms, including CNN, the BBC. To top that off, he's been instrumental in election campaigns that put 2 African presidents into power. Now that's power, right? He is Thebe Ikalafeng, the founder and group CEO of Brand Leadership Group. And to those who really know him, when he walks in, they say, what? The shield has arrived.
The shield has arrived.
The shield has arrived, right? I love the fact that you said, because it's an old age debate, this thing. Who's a brand? Are people brands? Are brands brands? Are products brands? And you're like, but when you got a name, that was your brand.
That was the beginning of your branding process. Because when they give you the name, they said, Anele. They says, that's it.
That's it.
We are happy with what we've delivered here.
So you are of the, not even impression, because impression means that you're likely to change your mind. You are of the creed that you are a shield that is arriving at all times.
Well, you know, I think because I'm the first grandson, I think my grandparents says, this is the guy who's going to hold the name, the company, the family name high. This is the guy who's going to protect us, and this is the guy. So somehow, you know, you always end up being what you are supposed to be. I think it's Muhammad Ali once said, the older you become, the more you become who you're supposed to be.
I like the fact that you called your family a company. You like Donald Trump.
I was just saying.
You know when Donald Trump calls America a company, the United States of America is a great company. We're like, Donald, country.
Country.
And quickly, sidestep now, your tie. Everybody has been going on about this tie. This tie is absolutely amazing. You say you were wearing it in Switzerland last week and you were giving a talk, and even them who make the best chocolates in the world, they were taken up by this chocolate man who's got an amazing tie.
They were zooming onto my tie. And people said to me, Thebe's an amazing speaker. But my goodness, that tie. Let's talk about the tie. I was like, it's African, it's beaded, made by Africans, made by hand. 100 Rand.
I'm blown away by it. Totally blown away. Totally. I also want one for myself. So what I love about you is you own your failures, right? Because you're just like, it was just a part and parcel of something that I was becoming. And you said, everyone fails at Wits. I failed at Wits, you failed. Wits gives you the edge, Wits pushed you over the edge.
Well, I know a lot of people who failed at Wits.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you know, in the late 80s, early 90s, all black kids failed at Wits because all had to repeat one class or another. Maybe not all, but you know, there was a thing there. We party too much. We come from small towns. They Kimberley. We arrive here, and people says, "My goodness, this life, your freedom." Because you know what happens with freedom? You don't study, but sometimes we study. But also around that time, actually, there was another factor. The other factor was the unrest. But not only the unrest, there are a lot of black kids sometimes were failed. So, but I think I fell in between the two. I think I fell between the too happy and the too, and also then the excuse of being failed because you are black. I think
I love the fact that you own your balance of being too happy. You know what I'm saying? When else would you say that you went home and you said to yourself, wow, I failed at that?
Well, I hardly ever really say I failed at that. I just always get up and say, that is not the standards that I expect of myself. I can do better than this. Because if you look at it as failure, then you begin to look down on you. But if you look at it as just a hiccup or just a misstep, then you then have to reload and do better. That's how I always look at it. I always look at it, every failure, every misstep makes you better. You can always get up wiser, smarter, better.
That is, I like that. That is not the standard that I am used to. I've set for myself. So are you very hard on yourself?
I'm not hard on myself. I am who I am. Because I think within our DNA, we are who we are. Some people are going to be A students, some are going to be C students. I've always been top of my class. You know, the rest of my school I was always top of my class, except for sub A and sub B, because I think all of us are dumb then.
Yeah, no, you're not supposed to know anything.
You're not supposed to know anything.
Come on.
But the rest of my class, my school year, I was top of the class. So it was always part of my DNA that I expect to be the best at whatever I do. But without thinking about it, I never conscientize, I never really think about it. I just get up and say, I expect of myself to be the very best at what I do. I need to apply myself with somebody who expect the best of themselves.
So you are this branding authority, and I think when you speak about marketing and branding and just forming and molding of messaging when it comes to brands, people, you're the go-to guy. If you had to go back as a kid, were you the one who was watching all the adverts? It's not inside, it's on top. Yeah, and then you were like reciting them. Was there always an affiliation between you and something that was getting sold to you?
I was always the one they come to for advice on anything. So I was always the one who came for extra classes on mathematics.
Okay.
They came to extra classes on science, extra classes on English. I was head boy. So I was always the one they come to. So the idea of consulting, of advising, of all those has always been a part of, if you will, who I am.
But that's your execution.
But I accepted it. And I never really thought much about it. And the idea of brands, by the way, I had no clue what brands are. I just knew the things that I love and the things that work for me. And the fact that it's called brands probably started when I started working for Colgate in New York. Then that's probably the only time when I started, oh, brands. Yeah, I mean, brand management. I guess this thing is called a brand. I just grew up calling it Colgate.
So what did you study then?
So when I first arrived in the US in 1989, and I dropped out of it. Remember, out of accounting, as we all do.
Yeah.
And then,
you can find someone to balance your books for you.
So I arrived there, and I remember, we had 3 weeks in the US in Ohio, and we were at a nightclub with a lot of South African academic exiles and political exiles, and we were all there, and we were dancing, and some guy says to me, Thebe, you're also here. He's a guy I knew from Wits. Now it's like, what you coming to? What you coming to do here? I'm like, dude, I'm coming to finish my accounting degree. He's like, oh, Thebe, you don't look like an accountant.
Oh, wow.
And he says to me, you're more like a marketer. You like that guy that, because when I was at Wits, when I was at high school, everywhere else, I generally had good rapport, I had very good interpersonal skills with anybody across all levels. And he says to me, you're like a marketer. So, and I was like, marketer, whatever that means. Only dumb people do marketing. It's too easy to get into, I'm thinking accounting, it is clever.
It's the one you do when the course doesn't take you. Like you want to do medicine, then you don't make medical school. Like, okay, let me do marketing.
Let me do marketing.
Yeah.
The barriers to entry are so low. Anybody is a marketer.
Then you end up,
Then I ended up, as the best marketing student at the end of my course. Well, I started in accounting front row, and I ended up in marketing front row because we swapped the roles.
Okay.
By the time I finished, I was named best marketing student by the American marketing students. I started working for Colgate, came to South Africa, marketing, Nike, marketing South Africa, marketing for the continent. So I've just been. That's all I know.
Do you find that brands call you, you just said, the Nike, the Colgate, do you find that brands call you when they're in trouble or when they want to strengthen their position?
It's a combination. Well, I must say, Colgate did not call me. It was one of the 80 applications I made as a student, stamping, writing, application.
Dear sir. To whom it may
concern. And out of the 80 that I applied, 79 it did not concern. Only one of them said, you look interesting, let's talk to you.
I've got teeth, I can sell Colgate.
Correctly. So I think it's a combination. I mean, I've had so many different approaches. I've worked on over 100 brands across the continent. So you can imagine some brands call you when they're starting something, some call you when they want to change, some call you, with politics it's always we're in trouble. We need to win win. Can you help us? With other brands is, Free State, when the kids urinated in the porch. You remember that?
Oh, yes,
UFS,
Yeah.
and then there was a big crisis for the university. It was also a catalyst for them to say maybe we need to rebrand.
Yeah.
When I got there,
This could go either way.
So some of the things that we had to do that we ended up doing rather took out the gunpowder, which was in the identity which symbolized white people overcoming black people. I took out the word God out of their entire positioning, because we said the university that's funded 75-80% by government cannot be just for people who believe in God. But you can imagine the
ties that you had to
correct.
pry
I mean,
apart.
Volksblad, I think it's Volksblad, the local paper, published a whole article. It's just that guy from Joburg has come here to change our university. So brands call you for different reasons. They're launching a new brand. They're in trouble, like UFS, I say, like UNISA. I did a whole merger of all those universities. Or like Transnet, when they were changing, when they were getting rid of public transport and just focusing on rail.
Railway.
So a range of reasons that we get called for. So, of course, yeah.
So basically, now that I've set the scene for you, he's like the brains behind everything you thought just happens naturally, like things are just there. But meanwhile, he's there working behind it. Life experiences and applying the lessons learned have earned him the honor of being one of the 100 most influential Africans by New African magazine. More with Thebe after the break. And welcome back to Real Talk. So here's a line you've heard many times: I am an African. We all know the famous speech of deep-rooted pride and conviction by our former president, President Thabo Mbeki. Iron Lady of Liberia, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, once said, Africa is not poor, it's poorly managed. And today, I'm with Thebe Ikalafeng, you are one of the people who are constantly pushing the African agenda. You're just like, I heard you speak and I loved it, because they said, how do you build a brand? You're like, well, you're authentically you, and you don't change your story, because you change your story, you're gonna trip, and then you're gonna expose yourself that that's not who you really were. So what are we as Africans doing right and wrong when it comes to, becoming brands?
Well, exactly. So, I'm very passionate about ensuring that as Africans, we own our identity. I think Fela Kuti says, if you identify with Africa, then you'll have an identity. So you must identify the continent, because think about it, who can do Africa better than Africans? Only Africans. So what we try and do most of the time is we are so consumed by trying to please the West and or the East and all those,
to make them feel comfortable.
To make them feel comfortable with who we are. Starting with our names, as you said at the break, that if you say your name is Thebe Ikalafeng or Thebe Dela, how do you say that? I call you T, because it's much easier to say. And you're like, but how come if your name is Mary, I don't call you M?
Yeah.
Or David, I don't call you D?
Yeah.
I learn how to say a name, because naturally I'm not inclined to be able to say David or Mary or Jacob.
My little sister says, if you can say Chochowski, you can say Thebe.
You can say Thebe, indeed, indeed. So I think what we're doing wrong is we don't own our identity, or rather we are too afraid of who we are. And who we are is our only distinction. Because as an African, you can't go claim ancestral passport in Australia or in England or in America. This is the only place. It's your beginning, it's your end. Matter of fact, you can be anywhere in the world. You could be born in London and be dark as me. On the street, when people point at you, they just see an African. So the thing that we then need to do is we need to look at it and say, as an African or somebody of an African extract, isn't it something that I need to own? Because it is who I am, and it is what makes me distinctive and what gives me an identity in the world.
So when you find that you're going into helping brands out and companies, this message of Africa, do you sometimes have to park it at the door because that's just not what they want to hear? Or do you find ways to infiltrate it into, because I mean, if they're calling you, they really want you.
Correct.
And that's what you feel.
Correct.
So do you make sure that you carry this message along with you?
Well, I mean, part of our vision at Brand Leadership, our company, is really to help build great brands in Africa, or great African brands. Because we say with us, there's Africa inside everything that we do. So what we try and do is we try and say, what is that African insight that we can integrate into your brand? What is that we can bring into your DNA, or rather that we can take out of your DNA and highlight? So no, when you come to us, you should expect that somehow we are going to give you a clap and give you reality and says, you are in Africa. You are serving African consumers. Speak to them in the way that they can relate to you.
But then do you not have to, when you do that, do you not have to then find the similarities, right? Because yes, it's great to celebrate the differences, like why we're African and why the West is the West and the East is the East, right? And I find that the East does a really good job at sticking to the East.
Sticking to who they
Yeah,
are.
like, you know, I feel like we could learn more from the East than the West, if I'm making sense.
We can learn a lot from the East.
Yeah.
We can learn a lot from South America.
Yeah.
Do you know, I judge Red Dot globally every year.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest global design award in the world.
Yeah.
And every time I go there and I see some of the work that comes from the East and that comes from South America, I'm like, how? These people are not trying to fit into the West. They are trying to assert who they are. Our job is to assert who we are. You know, if you look at, you know, every year I publish, I do a research across the continent on the top 100 best brands in Africa.
Okay.
And the problem that we have is only 17% of the brands that Africans admire are African. So in other words, there's an 83% rejection of who we are. So that's a problem, because if you reject who you are, then you'll never be able to build success out of that. And if you think from a branding perspective, if 83% of the brands that we admire are non-African, it means that 83% of the profits that we make go out of the continent. So if the money goes out of the continent, no wonder we are begging and borrowing.
Junk status, maybe that's where you should go next. Have you ever considered working for the Treasury Department?
Well, I mean, we all work for the Treasury Department because we all pay tax.
I am an employee too. Don't worry, Pravin, we're in there.
So, you know, I mean, it's a very challenging situation where we're in as a country. But now think about South Africa, that for many years up to 1990, we were actually an isolated country. So if you think about what isolation sometimes does, isolation sometimes forces you to think, to be creative. So if you look at the rest of the continent, while the rest of the world rejected apartheid South Africa, during that time apartheid South Africa created a lot of the brands that you see. So now that's a lesson that we can learn from, that during this isolation...
When you isolate yourself, you can actually build something strong.
Well, because you all have nothing else but yourself to rely on. So now we've got we now in the junk status, nobody wants to invest here or nobody wants to bring money here. It's actually an opportunity rather than a problem for us as Africans, as South Africans, because what it says, as a South African, now that you can reach out to nobody else, can you reach out to yourself? So we are going to become more creative. We are going to become more self-resourceful, and out of this will come a great and an even better South Africa.
So speaking of you doing things across the continent, you were instrumental, is it John Atta-Mills, in putting him into power as the Ghanaian president. Who calls you to say that? Like, I just need to know, like, the channels. Like, when your phone rings, what does it say there on the caller screen ID?
Well, I mean, because it's what country is this now?
Okay, so it's plus what, and then when you answer, who on the other side, who says hello, Thebe?
Well, I mean, you know, when you're working with presidents in the beginning...
I don't know, I've never worked with presidents.
In the beginning, there'll always be a middle person who comes in. So obviously in that space and many other spaces, we work across Francophone and Anglophone Africa in the area of helping presidents and all those. It was always the first caller is a person, not the person, not the president
not
themselves.
The guy.
Not the guy themselves. But of course, in order to deliver a successful presidency, you need the guy.
You need to meet the guy.
So yeah, of course, when that call came in 2007 or 2008, it came from a middle person. So we went over there. It was an interesting campaign, by the way, because when we arrived there, he's a professor, he's got a PhD in law, well-respected former vice president, great a party, but they had no idea and they had no money. So the job was, we have no idea on how to win the elections and we have no money. Help us win these elections.
So do you base yourself there during the course of the election? Well,
you know, our continent is 55 countries. So and I base myself in an aeroplane between countries. So we'll have people working there in and out of the countries. Because I think somebody said to me yesterday, I must suffer from ADD. Whatever, I can't remember what the word is. He says your attention deficit. You know,
attention deficit disorder.
Disorder. Yeah. He says because you're here, there, everywhere else. I said that's how you're gonna get around. But I get energized by not being one place at any point in time, by going from this place, that place, that place. Because again, as you travel, you become better, you become, you open your mind. You know, I've been to obviously over 100 cities around the world, so, and I've done more than half the continent. So all those lessons make you a better thinker and a better marketer.
I'm fascinated about this presidential campaign. So did you look at him and say, you need to stop wearing those shoes? Were the comments
quite
like
interesting.
that?
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I mean, you're right, because part of building a brand, it's not just the visual stuff and the verbal. It's both the visual as well as the verbal, because there needs to be an alignment between what you say and how
you look,
how that aligns.
Your body talks before you talk.
Your body talks before you talk. You know, 55% of the impressions people have of you are based on what they see first, and only 7% on the content. So now you can imagine the first thing you need to deal with as well is that. But we did everything. We did train the president on how to project himself, how to speak abroad broadcasters from all over the continent. Trained him in a room. We looked at his dress. We said, Mr. President, you're a professor, well respected, speak well, but you need to come down to our people,
layman's levels, because those are the people that vote for you.
Because they can't vote for you in a suit and a tie. Then you will not be like them. That's why, matter of fact, even if you think about here in our country, when Thabo Mbeki started going door to door in Atalapanzi, and people says, that's not like you. But when
you wear the bomber jacket, I'm like, where's the tie?
It's like, this is like you. So you have to understand that your message has to align with your image. So of course you do all those things. But we did everything from television to public, to speaking, to speech writing, to the campaign, to the whole activation. Matter of fact, when we launched the campaign, I remember sometime in May in 2008, the opposition called a press conference and they said it's impossible. Who revived them?
Clear. This is why people are Googling his net worth. We're going to talk about that when we come back. So there's still another week for you, however, to enter our weekly e-gift card voucher giveaway, 5,000 Rand. Details on the screen. We'll be back in a minute. What a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm with Thebe Ikalafeng, a man who wears, and stylishly at that, so many hats and successfully too. Respected as a global African brand authority, he's been recognized as one of the top 10 thinkers in marketing amongst business decision makers in Southern Africa, and was called one of the top 10 Africans to follow on Twitter. Oh, way. He was called this by the How We Made It in Africa. Speaking of Twitter, the one thing that can build a brand and destroy it at the same. What is your take? Did you have to kind of shift gear yourself in your expertise and how you work with brands when social media became what it is?
Well, you know, the thing is, people get confused with social media. They think social media is something else, but social media is you. So whatever you put out into the world, through social media, through your mouth, through your gossip, it's all part of who you are. And so when people get this thing, they think it's something else that I can just quickly put on the site and then bring back. So of course now brands have to be very, very careful, because now what happens now in the world is, I think you've seen many examples. Some staff member press a send on what they were thinking themselves.
And now the staff member and the brand
are two different, because what you must remember is that as an organization as well, you have a personality and you've got what you have a set of values, what you stand for. So your Twitter must be aligned with that. So that's why when you curate your messages, that's why when people are managing your message on your behalf, it is not about them. It is always about you.
And so I find that brands are like, oh no, sorry, one of our staff sent that. I'm like, whoa. No. So
you've got the wrong stuff in your company, because the stuff that you bring into your organization, the people that you employ, are supposed to be as well a microcosm or rather a representation or ambassadors of who you are. So if that's how they speak, it means in your organization you've got people who are not aligned with your organization.
Yeah, and there's a disjointed messaging system there.
And you're not managing the messaging yourself, because you also must manage it.
What was the last brand you were blown away by? Like they did something, you were like, slow clip.
So, well, you know, I'm always surrounded by so many interesting brands, and some of them are quite old. You know, I still think what the people at M-Pesa have done in Kenya is phenomenal, because this.
Tell us about that.
So M-Pesa is the money is the mobile money payment solution out of Kenya, which is I think it's about maybe 10 years or so old. But what they've done is 70% of the GDP of Kenya runs through the phone. So people pay for their taxis, they pay for their electricity, they pay for everything. They transfer money with their phone, with this mobile money transfer. Because what they realize in Kenya, for example, that a lot of the, much of the country being rural, people were struggling to send money from the urban areas to the rural areas. But the one thing everybody had was a mobile phone. So I thought, and they said, let's use a phone instead of building bricks and mortar like we have maybe here in South Africa.
Yes.
Let us use the
overhead
phone.
Banks,
overhead and all
tools,
those things.
slips.
So they do everything through the mobile.
That is
I still
amazing.
think it's the most amazing
But
thing they've done.
Kenya's very progressive.
Tech-wise, ahead of them. They pay for their electricity, they pay for their taxes, everything through mobile. I also think, you know, what the people in Ethiopia have done with coffee is amazing. Because now coffee's always been an African thing, from Kenya to Ethiopia to Uganda. Those are, you know, if you will, the centers of coffee in Africa. So the guys in Ethiopia, they realized that they've been selling coffee to Starbucks, let's say, for example, for $1, and Starbucks was making 12 bucks out of it. And they said there's a disconnect somewhere. Somebody's getting
Let's
screwed.
find that $11.
But we need to find the $11. And when they went to the Starbucks people, the people says, well, the $11 is our brand. They say our brand gives us a leverage to charge that much.
Yeah.
Then the guys at Ethiopia and the guys said, but it's our coffee that you are selling. They're like, no, we just buy bags of coffee from you. So what they then rebranded, and they gave each types of coffee a different name, and they packaged it differently. When our friends from Starbucks came back and says coffee, they said $12, please. And they
It's
said,
our brand.
It's our brand that you're buying. So I think those examples are always mind-blowing. Or even a small company like Iswara from Swati Martin here, who's from Cote d'Ivoire, but lives here in South Africa. You know, I was walking around Selfridges in London and Harrods, and I'm seeing on the shelves, and I'm seeing tea from South Africa. And I'm like, that's my girl, Swati.
Yes.
She's got tea in Selfridges and Harrods in Galerie Lafayette in France. I said, this is amazing. To me, those ideas amaze me. The brands which impress me, which really excite me, are those brands which are not afraid of their African roots. Because remember how M-Pesa is based. M-Pesa is based on African insight, that my people cannot...
Rural areas and
yes.
urban areas, the money needs to travel.
That's African insight. Now, people are only thinking about bringing Africa into this thing. Putting in Kentes and putting in... No. It's
the problem solving.
The problem solving that speaks to, you know, the people at Samsung do it very well. You know, Samsung, we rated Samsung the #1 most admired brand in Africa.
Oh, nice.
And the reason, and what Samsung has done well, they've got that Built for Africa initiative. Because the CEO of Samsung said to me, where have you been in Africa? He said, I've been to all the 54 countries except one. I'm like, you're more African than I am. I said, and what did you learn? He says, I sat in their rooms, and the lights went off. He says, I didn't say, this place is rural. He says, instead I said,
how do we keep the lights on?
How do you keep the lights on? And he says, he went out during the day and he saw the sun, and he says, but they've got solar power. Let's build solar-based products for Africa. So now those ideas are going out into the world. The same with M-Pesa ideas, which is another idea in Europe, it's used in Europe. The number of transactions in M-Pesa, by the way, are greater than all the number of transactions in mobile money worldwide. And that's coming out of Kenya. So to me, the ideas which impress me, which always leave me, wow, are those ideas which show how Africa is a creative and resourceful country, and those which show how people don't make excuses in Africa, but rather use the conditions of Africa to create.
The shield has arrived indeed. Listen, thank you so much. This was enlightening.
Thank you.
I think I'm officially obsessed with you now.
Oh, no.
No, I really am. I want to listen to you talk all the time. Do you like read bedtime stories that you sell on iTunes, maybe that we can just download and be like, let me hear my bedtime story? Should consider it.
I must do that, right?
There's money there, there's money there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, what a pleasure. What a pleasure. Listen, after the break, we continue to be African. We go back to the days of the cool timer fan Fifi. The legendary Can Themba is going to be under a hot discussion. Stay with us. And welcome back to Real Talk. Throughout the month of May, the Market Theatre have got a special body of work on stage. Can Themba was a talented writer who produced historic work, including House of Truth and Sophia Town. He was labelled a rebel of the apartheid regime, and a lot of his body of work was destroyed. One story, The Suit, continues to live on. It was staged for the first time at the Market Theatre in 1994, and to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Can Themba's passing, it's back on again. Joining me now is the thespian and artistic director, James Ngcobo, and narrator and actor in the play, Lindani Nkosi. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for giving us here.
The funniest thing, I had Selo Makanqube here the other day, and obviously he's also got a little bit of an obsession going with Can Themba. And he says when he first did The Suit, he almost got to levels of depression, right? Because it's a pretty depressing, it's a powerful story.
Yeah.
But look, it is a bit depressing. Do you find that it pulls you in the trenches of darkness?
When I was directing it, I found that every day when rehearsals end, I've got a terrace in my house, and I will go and sort of like hibernate there, because you are trying to find a way that will help the story unfold in a very beautiful manner for audiences. And yet at the same time, you are hit by the hopelessness in the story. And I always say, Anele, that The Suit is one of those stories that will completely dupe you as an audience. On paper, you could read it whilst you're cooking.
Yeah.
You know, but to pick it up from the page and put it on stage was one of the most difficult pieces of theatre I've had to direct.
Oh wow! And it's also like it's got such dramatic pauses and such silences where. And it's a small cast as well. I mean, it's basically a non-existent cast. Now you, as the actor in there, did you find that there were certain elements that you had to keep in? You're like, you know what, when this was first written, this play, there's something in the original that I must make sure that I bring to the stage all the time. What's that?
Well, the James made it clear to us that as the storytellers, we need to try and detach ourselves from some of the emotional rise that takes place in the story, so that we become storytellers and not try to immerse ourselves in the moments that are being brought in by the actors, you know, because they've got their own up and down emotional levels and all that. So we need to let them go, and we tell our own story.
So basically, you wanted them to just be the vehicles.
Yeah, you know, and there are moments where we open the door and they come with emotions flooding. But I kept saying to the three storytellers, it's almost like each one of them believes that their version of the story is the best
right one.
You know, and so when that happens, immediately you have a situation or a scenario where the storytellers are taking themselves on. The one says something and the other one feels the other one forgot or left something out. And they take the story forward, which then allows Siyabonga and Zola, because this Zola Nomboni, I just, you know,
right.
I never even knew her. You know,
Right.
Aubrey Paul, where I directed a play this year, which was about the meeting of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, that happened on the week that Malcolm X was shot. And we did this play, and I've always wanted to direct The Suit, and I've always believed that I would love to see. Zola is the youngest actress ever to play this role.
Tilly.
Yeah, to play Tilly.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to have a young actress, because for me it made sense that Philman is older and content with their lot, and she is young and ambitious, and it's almost like they've arrived at the same station, He's taken his ticket and just torn it, and she still wants to go.
She's still saying, no, but my journey's not done.
Yes, and when you read the suit, a lot of people in the read the suit, immediately you feel for a man because the wife cheated. It's like, oh my God, why did you? But I wanted to get into Tilly. Why did she do it? And we worked with a psychosis that said she was unhappy in that marriage. You know what I mean? And so she puts on everything to try and make Philemon happy, but there is a void inside her, which is her own happiness. And then I decided when I staged it, there is a configuration in theater called the Traverse, where audiences can sit. Yeah, audiences can sit on two sides. Audiences watch the play and they watch each other watching the play. A sense of voyeurism that I wanted to put, and a homely feel that we wanted to put in the piece that then allows Lindani and Andile and Mulifi to just be these very, I mean, Lindani, there are moments when he walks, he's inside their bedroom as he tells the story, and with an idea that without the storytellers, there is no story of Tilly and Philip.
Has it always been done with the narrator?
Yes, there's always been a narrator, but we've just blown it up. You know, and one of the things we're doing also that's never been done to the play is that we make Tilly storytell.
As well.
Yeah, as well.
So it kind of cuts into audience and you know, brings the audience in.
Yeah, and then I brought in this amazing dancer called Lesedi, who is her alter ego, who is her conscience, who is her nemesis, and she's always around her, but in movement. Which is another thing that hasn't been done. When you see Tilly, you see two Tillys.
Is he always this passionate?
Very. Yeah.
Is it always such a roller coaster to be around him?
And
because
it makes us feel like, Tina, we are backwards now because Yana is far ahead.
Because I'm levitating just listening to him, and I'm just like, why weren't you an actress?
Absolutely. But that's what you need when you're being directed, because it gets you where you need to be in terms of psychology of the play, the emotional levels of the play, the creative spaces that you can travel. We sit with audience like this in the play, and we actually interact with the audience in the play. So those are the creative licenses that he has given himself.
We just didn't want them to sit passively and watch this piece. I want audiences to be, there's also a sense that they are an interesting foil themselves, that with each actor that tells the story, they can go into the audience and say, but you know this too. You remember when that happened, you know, and...
Oh my gosh, you kind of feel like an accomplice.
You know,
it's like you're the one who made Tilly cheat. Like, Philemon, I'm sorry. I should have said to her, no, I was there with her when she met him. Oh my word.
Yeah, and also what we've done to the suit, the second I read it again, I then met with the designer. I wanted the suit. So you see the suit in the beginning, like the suit that the guy was wearing, and Zola does a thing with it and she exits. When the suit comes back, I've got a huge suit that is on a stick that has a hole on stage. It takes over the house.
It's the suit.
You know, and the second he finds her with a man cheating, he never sits on that bed again. He sits on the table, she sits on the bed, and you can see that there is now a clear separation. And one of the things I wanted to do also is that you know, most of the times when the suit is done, Philemon walks in and the lover runs out. I wanted to create a love-making scene with all the beautiful taste in the world. For him to see a man
deep in the throes
with his wife, and so we create this love-making scene, and she is in a gorgeous
nightie, lingerie,
and he walks in, he takes off his clothes, and he's all over. And when he's narrating, talking, she's lying like this, and he's over tastefully done.
Tastefully,
you know, but I wanted. You know, I've been in a relationship with my woman for 21 years. You know, I wanted an audience, because I kept thinking, what will I do if I could find, you know, and wanted also to make Philemon not so stoic in the piece. You see him at moments he can't even breathe. Because he can't believe she's doing this.
From what I remember from reading it, Philemon did come across as even though she had wronged him by cheating, from word go, he just looked like a monster. And I was just like, the only time I felt vulnerability for him is when she's, you know, killed herself.
Yeah.
And he's holding and it's like Tilly at the end. It's the only time I felt like, you know, he'd been hurt by it. But otherwise, he was very like, right, stoic and cold. And like, I'm going to keep you out of here because you can't ever get in again.
Yeah. So I was thinking that if Philemon is all about mental torture, we need the before. And the before is him getting hurt and humiliated. Then he is adamant that he is going to humiliate her. And that is why he makes the suit stay there, so that it's not his pain, it's her pain.
Yeah.
It's almost like you brought the suit.
It's her shame.
I thought we were in, this was this utopian dream that we have, we were living in bliss. You bring this, even at the party when his character says, what's happening? He says, why don't you ask my wife? She knows the fellow best. He refuses to take ownership of the pain she must hurt.
Okay, we're going to take a quick ad break. I want to ask you something and then you're going to tell us the answer afterwards. What has directing the suit taught you about yourself? And you, what has narrating the suit taught you about yourself? We will be right back. And welcome back to Real Talk with Anele right here on SABC3. The stage is yours. If there's a stage that will entertain and as you marvel at brilliant acting, it's got to be at the Market Theatre. Just days before they wrap it up, Sunday the 28th of May, you cannot miss out on this. Can Themba's The Suit, directed by this fellow here, my fellow here. So I asked you before the break, James, that what has directing The Suit taught you about yourself?
The first thing, Anele, will be confirming to myself that the more you direct, the more difficult it gets.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it never gets easier. And then the other thing is that we have really an amazing body of work in this country that we need to find these stories and tell them, because what is amazing about stories like The Suit, like The Suitcase, like Casey Motsitsi's The Efficacy of a Prayer, they are set in the 50s and yet they've got nothing to do with apartheid. They're about humanity. There's a universality. I could go to Uzbekistan or to Ireland or to Belgium in Antwerp and direct this play with Flemish actors. It's about a man and a woman. And so it has taught me that sometimes when we look back at heritage pieces, they really are that. They are heritage pieces. Like you could get to London and find that the hottest ticket will be an Arthur Miller, a view from the bridge, because these stories need to be seen by our kids. I've got a boy who's 26, to be seen by our kids, to be seen by a new audience, and to celebrate the literary giants that we have in this country. And that is why I kept saying to the actors, before we even get to major acting, we have to speak Can Themba, who was a major in English, and the way he weaves words together. He was a wordsmith of note. Yeah. There are moments when you don't need to act. You need to just say the line the way he said it, because nobody says it that way but Can Themba.
Wow. I'm about to vote for you. What has it taught you about yourself, Lindani?
Hey, man, you know, that having gone through the story, it's understanding that we need to be our own psychologists, our own doctors and our own therapists, because the way by which this man deals with the situation is unique to him. And I think it's his way of just finding some sort of revenge, right, in his own way. But I think we need to learn to be our own doctors and psychologists and therapists, that we find our own help to deal with things that are drive us to even, you know, death. To a point, you know, it's a tragic story. It's really a tragic story. But the way it is told excitingly. It's just that it leaves you with such pain at the end. Yeah. And so it's something that for me, God has got to be right at the center of me if I would meet such a situation. he needs to guide me.
Everyone
He needs to
has a
guide
take.
me.
What did you do? What would you
Yeah,
do?
exactly.
No,
What-
do
how
this,
would you-
it wouldn't happen. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It actually
so-
makes us ask ourselves a lot of questions
Yeah.
about ourselves. So you have a
'Cause
point about being our
we-
own psychologist.
I've got
Absolutely.
to exile. I think that's one of the things I'll do. Just run away.
You'd
Be a
never-
running Zulu, just running.
You'd never see me again. So, because you've got so many elements that are James-isms, if I can call them that you put into the, the current running of the suit at the Market Theatre, do you find yourself during the run going home and just reading the play again for yourself, just to go back to to its default setting, its foundation, you're not in its purest form without your injection in it?
Oh yes, I constantly am reading, and Lindani will tell you I still pop in and give notes, so that, because also one of the things for me that I deal with being the artistic director of the market is I am so obsessed with excellence on our stages. It's like an obsession. My team will tell you, I am hands-on on everything at the market. And I keep saying to my team, us who are the present custodians of this vision called the market, we need to mollycoddle it and care for it. And so there is nothing when I direct a play, nothing just happens, because I look for every breath in the piece. I mean, the next thing that I'm doing now, I'm directing a piece which is based on a true story. On the night Muhammad Ali won his first championship, before he was Muhammad Ali, he spends the night with Malcolm X and Sam Cooke in a hotel in Miami.
Sam Cooke?
So I'm looking for actors now and things. I obsess. I believe in excellence. I don't like things done
willy-nilly.
And when you find me at the market, you won't even tell that I'm the artistic director. I'm on the ground with people and whatever. I want people to speak with such eloquence about what we do at the market and what drives us. And so, yes, I direct a thing, I look at it, and I look again, and I go, oh, I think I was wrong, let's go here. And, So you're not quickly sort of content with it. You have to, and it happens also because one of my passions in life, I'm a cook. I love cooking. And so, you put a tarragon on a thing and then you think maybe it's sage.
I just got hungry.
And
I just got hungry.
You keep you scratching the surface to say,
James,
well,
SABC3 wants to play the news, and I can't be late, but I could listen to you speak forever. You were saying something about dates. You might extend, you might not.
we might extend, we will announce tomorrow.
Okay, so for now, let's behave like you're not extending. Yeah, so that we can all go this week.
Yes.
Yeah, born in
That's
July.
the way to
You
go
see what I'm
about
saying?
it, yeah.
James Lindani, thank you so much for your time. What an honor, what a pleasure to spend time with these distinguished gentlemen. A big thank you to our first guest, Thebe Ikalafeng, and then James Ngcobo and Lindani Nkosi. It's a good night from us. They're at the Market Theatre until the 28th of May. It's Can Themba's The Suit. You want to go out and check it out. Tomorrow, however, when we come back, we'll be talking about what it means to be transgender in South Africa. It is a conversation that has to happen. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.